Greetings from Chicagoland. You're listening to Munira's Musings, where your host Munira will showcase new guests each week to share exciting details about the journey to their niches. As we like to say, the riches are in the niches. And on this show, we'll share ideas on how to break through our invisible boundaries so we can start taking steps towards our dreams and create the life that we most desire. If you're passionate about impacting lives, then this podcast will give you some great ideas and equip you with the tools to quickly grow your business. Okay, let's get started with today's show. Here's your host, Munira.
Greetings from Chicagoland. This is Munira, the Niche Navigator, coming to you live from Chicago. Our guest today is an American living abroad, so we want to learn about that. And what is she doing there? Aren't you curious? I am. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is Munira's Musings. We come to you every week with a new entrepreneur, a new dreamer who is making their dreams come true. Our objective is to figure out what is it that other people are afraid of and why are they not jumping into the entrepreneurial sea with us? And why is this so exciting for the others who've already jumped into the sea with us? And what's their story? What's their niche? And what's their end goal? So we bring you this because we want you to jump into this with us and figure out that everybody else out there has had some fear and has had some hiccups along the way. We want to learn about that. And without further ado, we want to introduce our guest all the way from Malaysia, Shah Jones. Shah, welcome to Munira's Musings.
Thanks, Munira, for having me here. I'm excited about this conversation and looking forward to it.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's just dive in, Shah. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm an intercultural consultant, expat coach, and I specialize in working with women who want to live a soft life. And what does that mean? It means that they want to have more freedom and flexibility and actually tap into their God-given gifts so that they can live on purpose. I don't believe in hard work. I believe that if you do the things that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I have manifested the life that I desire to live. And so I try to help people do the same thing. I am a global traveler. I've been to 28 countries, I believe. I've lived in 3. And I love meeting new and interesting people who have stories to tell and who have lives that they've lived. And so I have tried my best to make sure that I get to see the world and experience people in different forms. And I also just really like traveling.
So wonderful, right? You're blending 2 passions together. 3 actually. Loving the people, enjoying meeting new people, and then traveling too, and then going out and exploring new places. What is the one place that is exciting for you that of all the 28 countries you've traveled to, which one is the most interesting?
That's hard. So I'm gonna switch that up a little. The person that I absolutely loved, hit the ground was Hong Kong. And I don't know, is it considered a country? It's more like a province of China now. But I loved Hong Kong. I loved the food. I loved the hustle and bustle. I just loved the atmosphere. But the food really amazed me. I never expected to go into restaurants and the food be so good. And I tried different foods that stepped out of my comfort zone. But I loved the tapestry of Hong Kong and how vibrant it is. That's probably my favorite by far.
Okay, so let's come back to the niche, right? How did you find your niche and what is it? You said you help people figure out their how not to work a day in their life. That's what I heard. I like that. So how did you find that?
So long story short, I manifested this life sitting on my couch in Charlotte, North Carolina. I used to live there, was unemployed. I had just recently become a life coach and specialized in emotional intelligence coaching. And I had been downsized, so I was sitting on a severance package and just, trying to figure out what was next. And I literally stated I wanted to see the world. And I went to sleep and I woke up to an email that was offering me to look at a job in South Korea. And looked at it, it looked interesting, but I had never known anybody to do such a thing. And so I kind of was like, I deleted it. The next day, my girlfriend called me and said, "Hey, I have an opportunity to go work in Japan. And I think, you would be a good fit. I want you to apply and we can go together." And so I was like, this is not my forte, but I'll do it anyways. And so I applied. They accepted me and they said, "We won't have any more jobs in Japan. So would you be interested in going to Korea?" So I was like, that's synchronicity. So I believe in synchronicity. So I walked through the door and I was like, well, obviously I'm supposed to go to South Korea. So let's go. I moved to South Korea. I began teaching, and I had been a corporate trainer, marketing developer. So teaching wasn't really my forte. I did training and things like that, but I was a facilitator. I wasn't necessarily, and I was teaching kindergarten, so it was totally out my realm. Um, and so I did my first year in Korea, and then I was like, I'm gonna go home. And a girlfriend called me and said, "Hey, I have a university position. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Sure." So I took the position, went back to Korea because I had just came home for like 2 weeks. And in that particular role, the dean of the university came to me and said, "Hey, I have these students that are going to 5 different countries, and I want you to create an intercultural program for them." Well, I didn't know anything about that, so I Googled it. And I put the program together in 2 days and taught the students that were getting ready to go to these 5 different countries. And what I found out was that there was this whole world I knew nothing about. And that um, is really what started it. So I did 2 more years in Korea, and then I came home on break and was in a head-on collision. So while I was sitting there recuperating, I had to forego one of my contracts. And in that process, I started asking myself questions. What are you going to do next? And I then opted to go to grad school, and I studied intercultural communications, leadership and management, and international education. And that's kind of how the trajectory of my life changed. And then I kind of honed what I do. So I started doing intercultural trainings for relocation companies that were sending expat abroad. And through that and my lived experience, I, just started morphing out what I do and kind of shifted it. And a couple of years ago, I started thinking my life's a vacay. I started a podcast and started talking about that. And literally, I started helping people who weren't necessarily expats and didn't know anything about, maybe not even the travelers, but people who I would normally not work with think about how they could shift their life and cultivate a life where they could live abroad, maybe be digital nomads or get a remote position and actually do something that they love to do versus just going to a 9 to 5 and having, a pretty boring life living in the United States.
Wow, this is so amazing. Yeah. And it's so amazing that how the doors opened up for each position. Now, so you are now in Malaysia, you said. And what is it that you're doing there? Are you still helping people, or do you have a position there that you're working in?
I'm still an intercultural consultant. I still help Fortune 500 companies when they're relocating expats. So, I do that training, but I also work with individuals who want to create the life that they really always wanted to live. Maybe they need to do some mind shifting in how they think about their life and what is tangible. I work with a lot of people who really want to be able to manifest. I'm a master manifester. I've manifested everything that I ever wanted in my life. This comes and it shows up just like I did for the position in Korea. Um, and so I still work with those people, and that's pretty much what I do. And I can do that anywhere in any time zone if I stay up and, because I'm 12 hours ahead of the East Coast. So that kind of can get challenging, but then there's, people I can work with in Australia and Korea, Japan. So it's a global job, or career, I guess.
Okay, so one question that I have is teach my people how to manifest. Quick. I know it's not done immediately, but what steps should one person do? Because I know people are looking at this and say, I want to manifest what I want to manifest.
Yeah, so manifesting really starts with mindset. It's really about what do you believe? And oftentimes people can't manifest because they're blocking themselves from moving forward because they have negative thoughts or they're vibrating at a lower energy. And so it's really about your vibrational pull and are you connected to that thing that you want to manifest? And when I started realizing I was a manifester, I had to go back. My mom taught me how to manifest when I was, and I don't even think she knew what she was doing, but she taught me how to manifest when I was like trying to get my first job. And she just told me, like, what do you really want? And it's also knowing about what you want without thought. Like, I seriously want this. But the thing is that oftentimes people say, okay, I want to live in Paris, right? And then they start doubting it or they change it. Oh no, I want to live in Milan. Well, it's like pulling up to a restaurant, or let's just say you went to Burger King and you pulled up to the drive-through and you tell them, I want a Whopper, fries, and a large drink. And then you get to the next window and you say, no, I want to change that menu or I want to change the order. And so then you change the order. Well, what happens in the universe is that now the universe has to change the order. And so you stop the consistency of being able to manifest that one thing because you haven't been very clear about what you want. So the starting point of manifestation is about being very clear, crystal clear about what you want. And then what you want, you have to then vibrate to that level of, and also have the belief and mindset that's unwavering that I'm going to get it. And then you forget about it. You kind of like move on because you've already put your order in. You know that you're going to go to the next window and you're going to pay for that transaction and you're going to keep moving. And then it starts to show up and you start seeing little synchronicities that meet you where you want, or meet you and take you where you want to be. But oftentimes people don't manifest the things that they want because they're unclear about it, they change their mind, or they just truly don't believe that it's possible.
Okay. So make sure in manifestation, I mean, we talked about a lot of things, but to manifest something, you just need to make sure that you're very crystal clear and don't doubt yourself. So to start this process, I think one should start writing down, correct me if I'm wrong, if you just start writing down everything that you really want. And, a long time ago, my mentor had told me that you already know what you don't want. So write that down. And now you don't include all of those things when you're writing the fair copy of what you want. So some people are not sure. And I've asked several people about this along the way and have asked them, what is it that you want? And many of them have said, I don't know, or they have to start thinking about it. And you can't manifest on that mindset. So I think I'm just promoting what you're saying in that way, but I'm letting my audience also realize that you have to understand, if you don't know what you want, you already know what you don't want. So write those things down and then tear it up. Because once you write the fair copy of what you want, the things that you don't want will not come into play. Am I correct?
Absolutely. And I think also it's important to know that when you first start manifesting or you first think about the thing that you want, and I think it is a good idea, write down what you don't want, because if you start thinking about what you don't want, then you eliminate those things and you start working on the things that you do want. But it's also important to know that as you are trying to manifest for the first time, or trying to, enhance your manifestation skills, those things that you don't want are going to show up, right? And they're going to be like, hey, hi, I'm here. And they're going to try to take your attention. And so you have to be very clear and change your mindset. I don't want that. I'm not going to think about it, because the minute you start thinking about it, you're going down that rabbit hole that you don't want to go down. And you're preventing yourself from actually going in the direction that you want to go in. And so it can be very difficult, because your mind will start trying to get you to go that way. And that's not the way you want to go. So if you really want to go right, you can't think about what's left. And you can't think about, well, I don't have it, or it doesn't look like. You have to literally, and Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say when he was alive, think from the end. You have to already position yourself in the place that you want to be and have a mental note or vision of that, and act as if it's already happened. That's the best way to get to your manifestation, is to live in the place that you're. And it's difficult because your mind is in the reality right now in 3D saying, well, this, I don't have that, or it's not possible. And so you have to shift and act. It's really like acting class. Act as if it's already done.
I like that. So you have to position yourself in the future, if you will. And I think the word that comes to mind is not zap, but what was make sure that you are not what's the word, um in the sci-fi movies, you just transform yourself into the future and say, this is what's going to happen. Just transform yourself into that picturesque. Well, that's amazing. So that's a wonderful way to start this conversation. So you say you're a master manifester and you've achieved all of the things that you need. I'm curious about what your mom said when you first started working on your first job. What did she exactly tell you? I mean, she should be on the show too.
Nobody knew anything about, man, this is in the 80s, 90s, and I remember I had applied for all these jobs. I was like 13 or 14, and I wanted my first job, and I was clear. I didn't want to work at Burger King or McDonald's. And a lot of my friends, it was a group of 5 of us, and they all had got this job they all worked at Burger King, and then I think one worked across the street at Taco Bell or something. And so everybody had a job but me. And I had applied for all these retail jobs and nothing was happening. And so I told my mom, all right, I give up. I'll go work at Burger King too. And my mom looked at me. She said, I thought you said you'd never work at Burger King. I said, well, but nothing's, coming. And that looks like where everybody else is working. So I'll go over there. And she was like, are you everybody else? I was like, no. She said, why would you settle for something that you don't want? And always will remember that. And she was like, you don't settle. And just because other people are doing it doesn't mean that it's right for you. And if you always stood on the fact that you would never work at fast food, why would you now, succumb to that just because it doesn't look like it's going to show up? She said, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get clear about where you want to work. It's just like if today I could give you the job, where do you want to work? So it was this a retail store, it's kind of like Target. Um, and I said, I want to work there. And so she said, okay. She said, let's go back you're going to go and apply for the job. I said, well, I already applied a couple weeks. She said, no, 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 you're going to reapply. You're gonna see yourself getting it. She's like, you're gonna go home and you're gonna pray about it and say, give it to God and say it's done and call it forward and then let it go. And she said, and if you don't have the job in 5 days or gotten a call, then if you want to go work at Burger King, I'll take you over to Burger King. You can apply. And so she was like, do we have a deal? I said, sure. So I went in, I reapplied, did all the things. I went home, I prayed about it, I let it go. And literally 2 days later, I got a call, asked me to come in and do an interview. I did the interview, I got the job on the spot, and I started in less than 3 days, I had that job. And so I always remember that. And so when I would get in little stuck spots in my life where I was like, oh, it's not working out, I always would replay that. And my mom told me, don't settle. What do you really want? Get very clear about what you want. And then if you got to reapply, if you got to, you have to take inspired action to allow that thing that you want, but then take your hands off. Let it go. The saying, let go and let God, you let go and let God. And then if it's for you, you will move towards it and it will move towards you and you will then be in the place where you can manifest that thing.
I love her advice, let go and let God, because that's what my father used to say as well. Let him take care of it. You've already done your part. He knows what's best. And if it's not for you, it's not going to come to you because he knows best. I like that. So another question is, let's get back to you. What you do is for the expatriates, right? I mean, I could talk to you all day, but let's talk about the expatriates. Now, what help do companies need for expatriates that need to go out? I mean, don't they have their own training? Why do they need a consultant to come and help them?
So often when you get an expat assignment, they bring in so you have a relocation packet. And so this is what I say, when I work with individuals who work for a company, those are traditional expats. Then you have unconventional expats who are what I would consider a self-initiated expat, kind of like I am now. That means I've decided I want to move. I'm not moving with any sponsorship other than my own. I get my own visa. I have to pay for everything, right? My whole relocation is paid for. But when you work for a company, they're relocating you. And so with that relocation package, they'll, move your things, help you sell your house, help you get a new place, yada, yada. But they also will bring in someone that will, like myself, who is an intercultural specialist, who will help you navigate the intercultural aspect of it. And so, if you're moving to a new country, that country is oftentimes going to be different. There are certain countries that, if you're a more Western country and you're moving and you have, let's say you move to London from America, then it's going to be different. Or it's going to be different in some aspects, but it's going to be very similar because it's Western based, right? But if you move from, let's say, New York to Korea, there are a lot of differences that are going to take place. And culturally, understanding the culture is imperative. So for your success, so companies pay for individuals like myself to come in to train you so that you understand the high context cultural aspects and the low context cultural aspects and how you're engaging with your employees. Let's say you're managing a bunch of nationals that are Korean, then you wouldn't talk to them and communicate to them in the same way that you would communicate to an employee in the US because there's cultural nuances that are different. And so it's important to understand that. It's also important that if you are, let's say you're moving and you got the position at, I don't know, SK Energy, and you're going to be managing this, say, 50 employees. Well, you have a spouse. Now, you've gotten this assignment, your spouse didn't, right? So now your spouse has to make decisions. Now it's a little bit different because sometimes they can work remote, and so their company may be able to assign them in a remote position. They go with you, or oftentimes what happens is that spouse then leaves their job. Well, if I've been managing and running a business and running the head of a department, and now I have to either leave my job permanently and or take a leave of absence, go on this assignment with my spouse, then how do I feel about that? And now I'm going to be placed where I used to be hustling and bustling doing my own thing. I'm now in a new country where the expectations are different, and I'm not going to be the same person that I used to be. So you're giving up a lot of different things. And I come in and I say, okay, well, what are your options? Can you find work in the place that you're going to? Can you find recreational things that allow you to shift your perspective and still have the life that you dreamt of having? But you have to kind of go through, it's like a mourning process of the person you used to be and now this new person. And then that also, works on your relationship with your spouse because somebody's giving up something, somebody, accepting a new role. So these are all different things that I speak on and help them navigate culturally. And then sometimes, depending on if they're coming into the US or if they're going out, and I've lived in that place, then we'll talk about the day-to-day living and how that's going to affect you. Where do you, eat? What do you, how do you find the things that are familiar to you, that feel like home, so that you can make the adjustment easier. And then I also do the same when you're returning home and people assume, well, you're going back somewhere you've already been. It's easy. It's almost like a nervous breakdown because you're different and you're coming back somewhere that has changed. And so repatriation is often very difficult. And so that's what I work with people about.
Oh, this is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So how do people find you, Cha?
So my website is www.shajones.com. I also have my business website, which is Global Bound Consulting, and I can do one-on-one coaching. I can do intercultural trainings that I normally do with organizations, small nonprofit organizations or large national organizations as well.
Okay. And any last words for our audience that you want to share?
I just encourage people to live their best life. Don't allow anything to hold you back. If you, feel like you're having a midlife crisis and you want to go see the world, go. The worst that can happen is that you go home.
Thank you so much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, here you are I'm talking to a wonderful person who has manifested her life, changed her mindset, got what she wants in life. There are some people, and including me, who always wish for things that are not coming our way. And she just shared her secret about being very clear about what we want. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the first thing that you want is get your clear mindset ready and then get what you want because it's not that hard. And if you read Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about that. Whatever your mind can conceive, you can achieve. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much, Cha, for being on our show. And anybody who's listening, if you like what you've heard, please go ahead and share, and subscribe to our channel because we'll be back with another guest next week to talk about their niche and how they are changing the world and helping people one person at a time. Until then, we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Munira's Musings. We hope that you found today's conversation inspiring and useful so that you can continue making progress towards mastering your own niche. Please tune in next week for another episode, and in the meantime, you can follow us on social media at Munira's Musings on Facebook and leave us a review wherever you're listening to podcasts. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.